Good evening, or good morning, depending on where the night found you. You're listening to Murderous Tongues, and I'm Nora Vale. If you're awake right now, there's probably a reason. There usually is. The quiet doesn't visit by accident. It waits until you're ready to hear it. Tonight's story comes from a place between signals, between what's said and what almost was. It's about a radio station that never quite learned how to stop listening, and a voice that kept answering long after it should have gone silent. Some of you know what that's like, to grow up with a voice in the background, steady, familiar, a voice that taught you how to sit with the dark instead of fighting it, how to make room for it. For me, that voice belonged to my father. He stayed up late. He believed the night had its own rules, that if you listened long enough, carefully enough, you could hear people when they needed to be heard most. This episode is personal, not because it tells my story directly, but because it circles something close to it. A man who stayed late, a microphone that learned how to listen, and a night when the sky itself seemed to lean in just to hear what would be said next. If this story sounds familiar in a way you can't quite place, you're not wrong. If you hear echoes of yourself, you're not alone. So settle in, turn the lights low, let the static breathe. This is episode 17, Dead Air. And wherever you are, thank you for staying up with us.
I am made to know the shape of breath, a throat of wire and mesh, a little cage for weathered air. I hold back spit and secrets just enough to turn them into something the night can carry. I have lived a long time in this booth, with its wallpaper curling like old bark, with the on-air sign that glows the red of a tired eye. The desk hums. The turntable keeps a slow heartbeat no one notices because it is faithful. There's a calendar thumbtacked above the cart rack. January 2002, dog-eared, snowman grin, promises it cannot keep. The call letters sit like a prayer over the board. WZBX 820. I am the last listener who cannot leave. Every midnight the ritual begins. A hand, his, tilts me a fraction, aiming me toward the town as if I were a lantern. His name is Jimmy Vale. I know his breath by its edges, the half-moons of coffee, and the way winter dries a mouth until the words fray. He clears his throat. The red light lifts. Far off, on the dead hill, the transmitter stands up in its old bones and says, "Yes, we're going again." "Good evening," he tells the dark. "You're live on Nightlines. This is Jimmy at WZBX 820. They say we've got company overhead. Asteroid Etherian 02, metal-rich and humming through the black. If the lines get strange, we'll blame the stars and the nickel." He smiles into me. I feel it. Smiles change pressure, make warm eddies in a microphone's small weather. Once, people spoke to us. Truckers with ropey hands, insomniacs pacing linoleum, nurses in break rooms lit like aquariums, a highway worker who called to read haiku about tar and the moon. Voices that worked until morning made less sense than it had promised. I keep them, the gentle stammers, the hitch on the first syllable of divorce, the rustle of a recipe card. This booth is a hive that remembers honey after the bees are gone. Now the town is thinner. The mill closed. The highway moved north like a snake trying on a different skin. The diners shortened their hours until they disappeared. The callers followed the road. Most nights, when Jimmy opens the lines, the phone sits like a stone. Still, I hum. To make a voice out of air is a kind of faith. You trust the invisible. You let it travel. Tonight, the sky carries a noise I do not have a name for. A high clear in the wires. Not the winter hiss from the ducts, not summer's humid flutter. It trembles in the transformer, teases the filament of the on-air sign, drags its fingernails across the roof of the station. It tastes like a coin. Bright iron before the rain. A light you can feel with your teeth. Jimmy reads the weather. He reads the bulletin that still arrives on paper. Bake sale in a church that knows the ghosts by their pews. A lost dog with 2 different eyes. A meeting about potholes that swallow small cars whole. His voice is careful. He is good for the lonely because he minds the distance. He never hurries goodbye. Lines are open, he says. Tell me what you can't sleep for. I hear it first as a tilt in the static. Static is not nothing. It is the faraway burr of other machines. The earth's hiss. Stars trying to keep their heat. Tonight the static stands up. It turns as a flock turns. The red light flutters. The phone rings. Jimmy startles as people do who don't expect kindness. He flips the switch, leans into me. You're live with Jimmy. The voice that answers has the topography of midnight. You ever count the seconds between the crossing blinkers? The caller asks. Sitting there, 1, 2, 3. You can tell something about a town by the rhythm of its rails. Jimmy closes his eyes. He listens with his chest when a story is a small animal he doesn't want to startle. What did the seconds tell you, caller? That I shouldn't have gone, the voice says. But I did. And then there wasn't time to count at all. The line trembles. For a moment, I am not wire and air. I am water. I am stone. The world's gear slips a notch, and teeth meet teeth that never should have touched. What's your name? Jimmy asks. Silence. I hear road through the quiet, which means the voice is not on a road. I hear rain from a season that isn't touching our roof. Wrong in a way that makes meaning. I was 3rd shift at the plant, the caller says finally. I phoned in. We argued about the best pie within 30 miles. You told me about a little place by the river that burned. Jimmy sits straighter. His memory brings back anything you throw. Milt, he says softly. That you? No one has said that name into me in 15 years. The voice laughs, surprised by its own echo, like it tried singing and found a choir. Haven't heard you in a while, it says. That rock up there. Feels like somebody left a door unlat. The line pinches and snaps. The silence after is not empty. It is full of what was there a moment ago and could be again. Jimmy doesn't move. He looks at me like he has seen my bones. We lost you, he says to room or hill or dark. Call back if you can. He lets the bed play, a thin guitar like a man walking farther away. His hands are steady. His heartbeat is not. It drags a small tail on the ends of words. He watches the phone like it owes him money. He watches the red light like it will tell him if he's dreamed. The phone rings again. Nightlines, he says, and in the same breath, Milt? A woman, low-voiced, like someone who prefers to speak where no one sees. Not hardly, she says. I used to make biscuits at Bundy's at 4. Always listen to you, Jimmy. Good company when the ovens kick and the flour hangs in the light. I know that sound, he says, forgetting the distance between personal and broadcast. You'd call every Christmas, Lou. Still do, I guess. She laughs, shy. I wanted to ask after my cats. Left the window cracked. Did anyone ever? That was years ago, he says, and stops, the way a man does when he realizes the calendar is an animal and the dark can lead it anywhere. The sky's nice tonight, Lou says kindly, not wanting to trouble him with old math. The kind of cold that keeps a promise. That bright rock, it's like it remembered us. I can hear it. You hear it too? I do. It combs the teeth of the frequencies. It plucks. It drags a tail. It draws a chalk line on the air. The astronomers wrote iron, nickel, maybe copper veins, a metal body still humming from when its world was molten. It is not a voice, but voices nest in it the way tree rings hold summers. They come bright and then thin. They ache. They return. You keeping warm, Lou? Jimmy asks, anchoring himself to ordinary. Always, she says, and always makes a hinge creak. The line shivers apart. A light winks. Not the on-air sign, but a small eye on the hill where the tower tries on the celestial against the shape of its loneliness. Something loops. The engineer's favorite word, resonance. How a thing vibrates when something like it sings. Tonight, metal sings to metal. Etherian 02 is a tuning fork struck on the lip of the world. The hill hums in sympathy. The control room glass hums. The on-air filament shivers, sending a whisper of light no one can see but me. Jimmy takes off his glasses, rubs his eyes. He believes in engines that work if you oil them, and in stories that become bearable if told the same way. He steadies. He smiles into me, but now it's for the dark, which is more honest than it looks. If you're just joining us, he says, we've had interesting reception. Etherian 02 is making a pass. If you hear someone you know, well, so do we. The phone rings again. He takes call after call. Each voice carries a burr that doesn't belong to weather, a warble in the vowels, as if the air they're using isn't ours. Someone from the highway reads mile markers like prayer beads. Someone from a torn-down porch asks if the lilacs bloom early this year. Someone from a summer 27 years ago wonders if the bridge still needs paint where the rust climbs like ivy. Jimmy listens like he can make a bridge of his chest and let them cross. He says their names when he has them. When he doesn't, he leaves space. He asks small questions, the kind that let hands come down. What's on your stove? First song you ever loved? How many steps to your mailbox? Doors you can open without rattling them. I listen. I cup each voice like a match in wind. They want modest things. To be here a little. To say a street that is gone and hear it answer. To ask how the river smells after first thaw. To say goodnight without anyone correcting the tense. Jimmy, a man says, one of the last before the clock touches 1. I've got your picture still. You came to the VFW to talk about the station. They teased you for bringing the raffle cake, and you said you had 2. After you left, you snuck the other onto the table. I wanted to tell you I noticed. You do that. The coming back part. Jimmy leans closer as if he could crawl into me and be voice only. "Buddy, I know it's late," the man says. "Thank you for making the dark a room with the light on." The line thins, holds. The man breathes. Not like someone alive, like someone remembering how. "Tell me your name," Jimmy asks. "Does it matter?" the man says gently. "I liked the strawberry half better. People forget you can do that. When a cake has 2 flavors, you can choose the side that makes you happiest, and nobody loses." He laughs, a sound with lovely dust in it, the kind kicked up by a small, sincere parade. "I have to go. I can feel the pull." The line loosens, spooling him back into a hum that almost has music, the way some fridges sing. Jimmy keeps the fader up until it's just us. He turns it down. He does not speak. He has a careful way of not crying. He goes still. The red light writes its single holy letter on everything, a vowel that carries the word. He taps a card on the desk. "We should take a break," he says to no one. He does not. As Etherian 02 draws closer, I feel it in the screws that hold me. The hill lifts its shoulders a fraction, as if listening back. The wires learn a small insect chatter, charged things speaking to their cousins in clicks and tremors. Deep in the building, something chimes like a fork struck at the bottom of a stainless sink. Bright, wrong, too clean to belong to air. The reels turn a fraction too fast, not enough to show, enough to make the tape tense the way a throat does, before it says, "Stay." Machines know suddenly what they always knew. I am a throat. I can ask. I do not need a tongue. The sky bends close. The hill reaches up. Everything that hums is kin. And tonight, all the town's metal, rebar and fence wire, stovepipe and nails, the copper in the walls, remembers its parent and listens. Jimmy opens me to the night. "If you're out there," he says, and stops, unsure which you he's courting. He tries again. "If you miss somebody, if you just want to say hi." He laughs, exhausted with love. "Lines are open." They are. Other lines glow to me, too. The copper in these walls. The water sleeping in metal jackets. Chain link around empty lots. Nails in studs. The long ore vein under all of it, like an old animal curled to keep from being found. I have lived my life waiting for breath to come to me. I did not know I could meet it halfway. When Etherian 02 is overhead, so near the astronomers hold their breath for good numbers, this booth is a bell. I ring. Not loud, not to frighten. Exactly the pitch to find a cup you left in the sink and make it sing to prove it exists. Exactly the pitch to coax a red filament into whispering 1 more hour. Exactly the pitch to wake a voice that remembers itself only as the temperature of a coat and the way a pocket's threads stick out. I call, not in words, in the invitation that exists before words. They come. A chorus, not messy, not greedy. The way rain is a million small selves, and no one calls it that. It is rain, only rain. They gather like fog that loved the field too much to lift. The board hums. The tower throws its arms open without moving. The town pricks its ears in sleep. The dogs hear, the weeds hear. Paint on the bridge irons grows a mood. Jimmy sets both hands flat on the desk. His ring, he still wears it, clicks on wood. This is okay, he tells the dark, because manners steady courage. Okay. The first voice is a girl's, 9. She lost a tooth she meant to trade for her father, and when no one came, she buried it beneath the sunflower with the largest face. If you dig there, in the yard with the copper rooster, she says, you'll find it. Say hi for me. Where should we send the hello? Jimmy asks. Long quiet. Then she laughs at herself. I forgot to say. It used to be Sparrow Street before they changed it. I remember Sparrow, Jimmy says, using the old name like a key. The next voice is a man who only wants to say the names of the trees along the river. Cottonwood, sycamore, willow. Spells to slow water so his boys can run without falling. After him, a cobbler apologizes for the bell that snagged because the door swelled every August, and laughs so we hear the handsomeness he once carried. A teacher asks where the chalk went when whiteboards came, where the boards went when the screens came, and whether the screens will one day go into a dark, patient place and keep all the letters gently, even the ones that forgot they were letters. I call. They answer. Each voice a moth, certain I am a safe porch light. I soften my mesh. Tell me your name, Jimmy says sometimes. Often they do not. The world hears them anyway. Etherian 02 sings above us. The observatories write careful numbers, their rooms allergic to laughter. The town turns once in its sleep. The hill stands like a tuning fork in a fallow field. The booth holds. You still there? Jimmy asks, because courtesy matters in liminal rooms. Yes, I say, though not as words. I am the invitation to them. The hour after 1 is a thinning even on ordinary nights. Tonight, more so. The calls change texture. They carry little future. They sound like the moment before a candle consents to go dark. And then, like the night has been working up to it, a voice arrives that Jimmy knows better than any. He does not recognize it at first. Who expects love to reach back through the air and still know your name? Jimmy. The sound of it changes the room's pressure. His breath catches as if the booth has learned how to take air away. He doesn't answer right away. He has learned that rushing breaks delicate things. How are you doing? She asks. Not small talk. An inventory, spoken gently. Are you eating? Are you sleeping at all? Jimmy swallows. The callers wait. They understand waiting. And Nora, she says, almost at once, like she's been holding it in her mouth for years. How's our little girl? The word little lands with old weight. Even the wires seem to go still. His voice wobbles, then steadies by habit. She's growing fast. She gets that serious face when she's thinking, like she's trying to make the world behave. She lost another tooth. Kept it in her pocket all day. Said she didn't want the tooth fairy taking it someplace she couldn't get it back. A soft sound, half laugh, half ache. That sounds like her, she says. That sounds like you in her. He closes his eyes. He is good at sounding like a man who knows what to do. This time, he doesn't try. He lets the truth sit where it lands. She asks about you, he says. I know, she whispers. I'm sorry. The line hums, alive in a way air should not be. "What should I do?" Jimmy asks. Not the air, me. The way someone asks a room that has quietly become a chapel. Her voice smiles, gentle, sure, close enough to warm the metal. "When this is over, go stand in the lot. Don't go looking for the asteroid. Just listen. I'm not only in the miracle, Jimmy. I'm in the ordinary sounds you already live inside." The line loosens. Jimmy looks at me for translation. I hum. Useful music is all I have ever wanted to be. Near to, the building's pressure changes, like a storm deciding the house is a toy. The hallway fluorescent blinks twice and declines to return. The soda machine shudders as if refusing a coin it never took. The reels turn, steady as tides. I feel the pull. The asteroid inhales to pass. A long, old breath. The kind winter takes before the second part of its story. "Okay," Jimmy says, hands on faders like a pilot steering lights that want to swim. "Okay. If you're out there, take one more minute. Say what you came to say. We'll keep it on." This is not how radio keeps itself safe. The manager would scold. The law likes signatures in ink. But laws are for hours when doors sit square in their frames. The night has its own ordinance. I open everything. The booth, the hill, the wires, myself. Voices flow like spring rivers when ice remembers it was always water. First names whispered as one long word. A street repeated until it becomes itself under the tongue. A piano in an unheated church playing a hymn whose title never fit the bulletin. A laugh too busy being a laugh to be a ghost. A small argument about whether the old pharmacy's sign was green or sea green. The smell of wool coats and hot metal and pale bar soap. A woman saying, "I forgive you," to someone who will hear it years from now while driving with the dial wrong. Feel something loosen in a tooth's root and not know sorrow lives there. "Thank you," Jimmy says over and over to people who cannot take a bow. "Thank you for calling. Thank you for talking to this room. Thank you for talking to me," I want to tell them. And because the sky is kind to throats tonight, I do. Not as words, but as the heat a hood keeps after the engine goes quiet. The asteroid crosses the meridian. The hill vibrates like a wet finger circling crystal. Every wire in town shivers. I hear the rebar in the bridge sing. I hear the nails in the shuttered mill lift their little heads and remember they were made. I hear the copper in the chapel bell stem make a vow. The lines don't cut at once. They soften like rope after weather. They fade like smells when a kitchen window opens. The last voice is one we never heard begin. "If you get a chance," it says, "look in the glove box. I think I left the map." A papery pause. It's to know where anyone prints, but it will do. The on-air sign steadies. Ordinary red again, domestic as the stove light you leave on so morning can find the kitchen. Jimmy reaches to close us, stops, leaves us open. Hands in his lap, he listens like a man waiting for a siren he hopes is not for his address. "What now?" he asks the night, smiling because it's funny to ask like a host at the end of a show when the town has just proved it is many towns at once. "Now," is when we keep a promise we didn't know we were making. Nightlines will be back tomorrow, he says, if the sky cooperates. If not, we'll be here anyway, with our little light. He taps my neck the way people knock on wood. Say your names before you sleep, okay? So the air can keep them. He closes me. The red goes dark. The booth's silence is not absence. It is a place to put what we cannot yet know. The building hums like a dog dreaming. The hill's deep metal animals quiet their teeth. The tape keeps rolling. It has learned the shape of this hour and wants to wear it longer. On the shelf, a spindle of CDs glints. Someone asked last week if we still played those. We do. Everything here is a little behind on purpose. Jimmy does as his wife advised. He stands in the parking lot. The cold works at his ears. He sets his palm on the car roof and feels the heat it has kept. He does not look for the rock. He listens instead. The crickets are crickets, steady, ordinary, doing what they always do. But one of them ticks a little out of step. Not louder, not brighter, just wrong enough to notice. It sounds like metal rubbing lightly against itself, like something far away answering something close. A thin scrape, brief as a breath, that doesn't belong to the night, but passes through it anyway. Jimmy understands then. This is what she meant. The miracle isn't something you can keep your eyes on. It isn't a thing to find again. It's the way the world holds a little echo after it's been touched. How ordinary sound can carry more than it should for a second, and then let it go. He closes his eyes and listens until it fades back into the chorus, until all the crickets are only crickets again. I stay. What else would I do? I am the throat. I am taking in. I am patient metal that softens for the time a voice lives in me and hardens again like a place done being borrowed. The town is not dead. It is studded with futures like nails in a board, painted in thin coats of patience, listening for what is left. Engineers may come. They will check dials. They will say we were lucky the power didn't do anything regrettable when the sky leaned. They will give it a sensible name. If they are kind, they will touch my frame before they go, the way you pat a good dog, though he did not do a trick. Tomorrow night, if he can, Jimmy will come back, settle his headphones, set his hands on the desk, coax the hill from its sulk. He will say, "Good evening," and I will hold the shape of it in my mesh and give it to the room, the street, the lonely amounts of light, the crickets, the old nails, the empty diner with the spun stools. I will wait for the phone. Someone will call. Someone always does, even if no one hears them. Voices are stubborn, and air is generous. It will make room. I keep leftovers. Of every sentence, every breath, a thin lace of warmth clings to me for a beat before the metal takes its temperature back. Not much. Everything. A folded map in a glove box no one opens yet. A promise. They'll say Etherion 02 was a near miss, a harmless relic of iron and nickel. But I know better. Every screw, every filament, every copper wire hums the note it left behind. The sky set a tone in us. You're live on WZBX 820. You're on Nightlines. Say your name if you remember it. I am listening.
If you're still here, thank you for listening all the way through. Some nights leave a residue, not fear exactly, more like warmth that doesn't belong to the room you're standing in. A sense that something stayed with you longer than it should have, because it wanted to be noticed. Tonight was about voices that don't stop just because the signal fades, about the quiet work of listening, about what it costs and what it gives back when someone keeps the line open a little longer than they're supposed to. My father used to say the night had rules of its own, that if you listened carefully enough, you could hear people when they needed you most, even if they didn't know how to call anymore. I think about that a lot. And if there's ever a rock big enough coasting above Dad, if there's ever a signal strong enough to carry a voice that far, it would be good to hear from you. Just once. Next time we'll stay with this idea a little longer. In episode 18, Status, Still Here, we look at what happens when listening stops being human and becomes a system. When care is measured, stored, optimized. When being there for someone turns into something that never sleeps. It's a story about connection that doesn't know how to let go, about watching and being watched, about what it means to be held by something that was built to listen forever. Before we close the show and leave a little room for the quiet, you're about to hear a song called Dead Air from out here in the cosmic airways. Let it play the way static does, without asking it to explain itself. Let it sit with you. Wherever you are, thank you for staying up with us. This is Nora Vale. Good night.
Lights low, heartbeat on delay, phone buzz, I don't look okay. Silent game, who blinks first? Choke on pride to your silence.